Hi. Today we're going to be covering the basics of Macrorify. First, we'll start off by creating a new macro. Here, you provide some basic information about the macro, such as the name, icon, resolution, etc. We're just going to leave it as it is and give it a name. We then go into edit mode to modify the macro. So this is what it looks like when you're in edit mode. And on screen, you can find what all these buttons are for. We'll start off with using click points. You basically just tap the click point icon and drag the point wherever you want. Every object you add into the macro can be found in the Home section here. By tapping on each click point, you can adjust its properties. We're just going to set the wait next property to 500 milliseconds for each of them. We'll then play the macro to see the results. Now for gestures, we tap the gesture icon to add it to the macro. We then go ahead and edit the points for the swipe. By holding on the gesture, you can bring up more options to add more points to the swipe. Each gesture consists of fingers, and each finger consists of swipe points. You can add more fingers and swipe points to the gesture, and also edit their properties such as swipe speed, hold time, etc. We're just going to go ahead and make a pinch gesture using 2 fingers with different swipe points. Next, we'll look at adding image detection to the macro. But before we do that, let's first add images to the macro we can use for the detection. We'll open up Resources and tap on the Add Image icon. We then drag the floating window to the image we want to capture. Please note that images for detection are called templates. So we will be referring to them as templates from now on. We'll go ahead and also crop the image to the desired size. If you notice, there are local and global resources. Local resources are resources that can only be used with this macro. Global resources are global and can be used in any macro. Resources can be moved from global to local and vice versa. You should know you can also import images from your device into resources. Now we've gotten a template in resources, we'll go ahead and add a detection area. Upon opening it, you can see a variety of options to explore. Under Templates, you can specify whether it's an image or text we are trying to detect. For image, we will select an image template from Resources. Under the Find Options section, you'll find more options. Timeout is the time the macro should keep searching for the template before it should give up and end the search. Setting this to 0 means it will do only one search. Minimum score is the minimum percentage score for a match from detection to be valid. Scan rate is the number of scans to be performed per second until its timeout runs out or it finds an image. You should note that your device can only do a certain number of scan rate based on the performance of your device. Upon setting the template to text, other options appear. You can now specify the text to search. The segment mode allows you to specify whether it's a word, sentence, or paragraph you want to search. The whitelist and blacklist option let you set certain characters to whitelist or blacklist. The rest should be self-explanatory. We'll go ahead and change the template type back to image, as that's what we want to do. Switching to the Action tab, we see more options. Action is basically the action that should be carried out for the detection. You can set it to click either the best match or all the multiple matches it can find within that region. You can also set it to do nothing and just wait for the template to either appear or vanish from the region. These wait options are best used with the success and failure sections, which we will look at next. Upon selecting any of the click options, you'll have some additional click properties you can adjust for the click after the detection. The On Success tab lets us specify any group of actions to be carried out next upon successfully finding a match. Here we can include any of the macro elements by clicking the add icon, and the actions will be carried out one after the other. The same thing applies to the On Fail section. The actions here will be carried out when it fails to find a match within the timeout period. You are free to leave both of these tabs blank if you don't have any further actions to carry out. And finally, the Loop tab lets us specify how we want the detection to loop or go over again. Alright, let's go ahead and run the macro with our image detection and see what happens. And as you can see, the macro clicks the Macrorify icon and opens the app. The next thing we're going to look at is using input recordings. We'll go ahead and tap the recording icon. Then we start the recording by tapping the play button. Every input we enter within the highlighted region will be recorded, including the delay between each input. Once we're done, we tap the stop button to save and end the recording. As you can see, click and swipe points from the recording become visible after we save the recording. If you'd like to hide these click and swipe point visuals, you can do so by tapping the eye icon. We'll go ahead and play the macro to see the results. And we can see that all our input was played back accordingly. By opening the Home section, we see a play record action that plays our recording. You should know that all input records are resources and can be found in the Resource section. And to play any input recording, you add the play record action with the plus icon. We'll go ahead and open the play record action. Just like everything else, we can see a bunch of options. You have the option to select any recording from resources. You can also adjust the number of times to repeat the recording, playback speed, and other options. Now let's take a look inside the actual recording in Resources. As you can see, an input record is just a series of click and swipe points. And each of them can be edited to your liking. You can even add more click and swipe points with the plus icon. Alright, so far we've been able to cover these 4 objects. Next, we're going to look at how we can put it all together. But before we do that, let's talk about how we can group objects together. And we do this with the group/loop object. So grouping does 2 things for us. It lets us organize group of actions together. And it lets us loop over the group actions for any number of times, or even infinitely. Here's how a loop works generally. A loop repeats a set of actions or instructions as long as the loop condition remains true. The condition could be anything that could either be true or false. But in this case, the condition is the number of times the group is to loop over. Basically, the loop count. So the group will continue to loop as long as the specified loop count has not been reached. Also, loops generally have additional options or commands for manipulating the loop. In this case, we have the break and continue command. The break command ends the loop instantly and moves to the next object. The continue command skips the remaining actions in the group and jumps to the next loop session. Let's have a closer look at the group object. So a group consists of objects and actions. It loops over these objects for a specific number of loop count. Let's assume one of the image detection has a break command in its on success section. It ends the group loop and moves to the next object. Let's now assume it had a continue command at its onSuccess section. It skips the remaining group actions and jumps straight to the next loop session. Also, you should note that if there are multiple groups preceding each other, the break and continue command will be directed towards the last group in the chain. Here's how you use grouping in Macrorify. You add the group object using the plus icon. By selecting Edit, we get the options to name and set the loop count for the group. You then add objects to the group with the plus icon. Because we are within a group, the break and continue command become available options we can include. Great! Now that we know all about group objects and some other basic macro elements, let's try and use what we've learned in this video to make a simple macro. We're going to make a simple macro to open the News section in the Macrorify app. So the macro will first open our home screen, swipe through the home screen and open the Macrorify app. And then click on the News section in the app. Should be an easy one. For the first step, we can use the click point to tap on the home button. Or for an even better approach, we can use a system action to go directly to our home screen. The system action is used for carrying out certain system or Android tasks, like pressing the home button, taking a screenshot, playing a notification sound, and lots more. We'll also go ahead and add a wait object to wait for 1 second for our screen to animate to the home screen. The wait object does just that. It waits for a specified period of time. Next, we create a group object to swipe continuously and stop when we find the Macrorify app. We set it to infinite loop because we want that continuous swiping motion. Here, we go ahead and include the swipe action to the group, setting it to wait for 1 second after each swipe. We then adjust the points to swipe left. Now, we include an image detection to the group to look for the Macrorify app. We adjust the detection region to cover over the area. We select the icon template from Resources. We set the timeout to 0, so it only does the detection once and continue over with the loop. Under the Action tab, we leave it as Click Best Match and set it to wait 1 second after clicking. And on the onSuccess tab, we add the break command and end the loop to stop the swiping action. And finally, the last step, we add a click point object to click the News section. Perfect, we're done. Now let's play the macro and see the results. Great. It does exactly what we want. We'll call it a wrap for this video. These are just some of the basic things you need for making macros. We'll be covering even more in our next videos, so be sure to stick around. See ya!